After hours of replaying the events in his mind, Samuel Rivers was still reeling from the sudden dismissal. His big idea had been brushed aside with barely a second thought, leaving him questioning everything. But the next morning, as he sipped his coffee, a sound outside his apartment caught his attention. Engines roaring, growing louder. He stepped to the window and froze. A sleek private jet was parked in front of his building, its doors wide open. No message, no warning. Who could be sending a jet for him? And what on earth did they want? Welcome to Limelight Tales. So, we begin today's story and await the message it holds along the way. Samuel Rivers had always dreamed of working for Lumensis, a fast-growing tech startup known for its cutting-edge innovation. As an intern, he'd spent months immersing himself in the company's projects, staying late at the office, and learning from the best minds in the business. He'd poured his heart and soul into the idea he was about to present in the boardroom. He had no background in the corporate world, just raw passion and a brilliant idea that he knew could change everything. A software that could streamline communication between departments in real time, making collaboration seamless and efficient. The more he thought about it, the more convinced he became that this was what Lumensis needed to get ahead of their competitors. The day of the presentation, Samuel's nerves were on edge, but he knew he couldn't back down. As he walked into the spacious boardroom, the room fell silent. The CEO, Victor Harrington, was at the head of the table, flanked by other executives. Samuel took a deep breath and began. His presentation flowed smoothly at first. He could see the slight nods of agreement from a few people around the table. The numbers, the potential cost savings, the projected boost in productivity, it all seemed so clear. But then, as he neared the end, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The board members seemed distracted. Some were glancing at their phones, others whispering to one another. Samuel felt his stomach tighten as CEO Victor Harrington spoke up. "Samuel, it's a good idea," Harrington said, his tone flat, "but we're already working on something similar. We'll review this internally. Thank you for your time." A stunned silence followed. Samuel tried to maintain his composure, but the words stung. This was it, his big moment, and they were dismissing him. He'd spent weeks researching, refining his proposal, only to have it tossed aside in a matter of seconds. Without another word, Samuel packed up his things and left the room. But as he walked down the corridor, something stirred inside him. He wasn't going to let his idea die here. Not like this. Samuel's head was still spinning as he sat in the small HR office. Caroline, the HR manager, looked at him with a blend of sympathy and professionalism. "I'm afraid we're going to have to let you go, Samuel," she said, folding her hands on the desk. "Your behavior in the board meeting was unconventional. It's clear that you have potential, but the way you presented your ideas isn't the best fit for our culture." Samuel stared at her, disbelief creeping over him. "Unconventional? I thought my idea could help the company. I put everything into it." "I understand," Caroline said, but her voice had a cold finality to it. "But we have to be careful about how we operate. We need team players, and sometimes innovation can be disruptive in ways we aren't ready for. You'll receive your severance package, of course." Samuel's mind raced. Disruptive. What a word. Was that what they saw him as? A threat? He had tried to help. He had believed in the company, worked tirelessly for them, only to be shown the door. He stood up, grabbed his things, and walked out of the building, feeling like a failure. The weight of the rejection lingered, but there was something else stirring in him. Maybe he had been naive to believe in Lumensis. Maybe they were just another company focused on maintaining the status quo. That night, after hours of self-reflection, frustration, and pacing around his small apartment, Samuel opened his laptop. He couldn't let go of his idea. It still burned inside him. If Lumensis didn't see its potential, maybe someone else would. His fingers hesitated above the keyboard for a moment before he started typing. He wrote an email to Nexus Tech. the rival company he had always admired. Nexus Tech was known for pushing the boundaries and thinking outside the box, exactly the kind of company that might appreciate his vision. He quickly explained his idea, the communication software, and how it could solve the pain points that so many companies faced with their internal systems. He wasn't expecting much, but he couldn't just walk away from it. So he hit send. With a sigh, Samuel closed the laptop and fell back into his chair, staring up at the ceiling. It felt like a long shot, but sometimes the best opportunities come when you least expect them. The next morning, Samuel was still in his pajamas when there was a knock at the door. He groggily opened it, only to find a sharply dressed assistant standing outside with a tablet in hand. "Samuel Rivers?" the assistant asked. Samuel nodded, confused. "Yes, that's me. Is there something I can do for you?" "I'm here to escort you to a meeting. Mr. Isaac Winters, CEO of Nexus Tech, would like to speak with you." Samuel blinked. "What, Mr. Winters, I'm sorry, but I think you have the wrong—" "No mistake," the assistant interrupted smoothly. "Mr. Winters is expecting you. Please follow me." Confusion surged through Samuel. Why would the CEO of Nexus Tech want to speak with him? He had just emailed them, but this was all happening so fast. Still, the assistant was persistent, and before Samuel knew it, he was in the back of a sleek black car heading toward an unknown destination. The car stopped at a helipad near his apartment, and Samuel's eyes widened as he saw a sleek private jet waiting for him. "Mr. Rivers," the assistant said with a polite smile, "please board. Mr. Winters is waiting." Samuel's mind spun. This was surreal. His heart pounded in his chest. What was happening? The assistant led him onto the jet, and he sat down in the plush cabin, still in shock. A few minutes passed before the door opened again, and Isaac Winters himself stepped into the cabin, extending a hand. "Samuel, I'm Isaac Winters," the CEO said warmly, shaking his hand. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you in person." Samuel struggled to find his voice. I don't understand. Why am I here?" "Well," Winters said with a glint of amusement in his eyes, "we've been keeping an eye on your work for a while now. When we saw your email, we decided to take action. Your idea caught our attention. You see, we've been looking for someone with your vision. Someone who isn't afraid to break from the norm." As the private jet soared through the sky, Winters continued to explain. "We're offering you a position at Nexus Tech, Samuel. A senior role. You'll lead a new team dedicated to developing your idea. We believe it's exactly the kind of innovation we need to stay ahead of our competitors." Samuel was dumbfounded. "But why me? I don't understand. I thought you'd just dismiss me like Lumensis did." Winters chuckled. "On the contrary, Samuel, we saw exactly what they missed. Your idea is groundbreaking, and we want to help you make it a reality. You won't be stifled here. You'll have the resources, the freedom, and the support you need to develop this." The reality of the situation began to sink in. Samuel couldn't believe it. The very idea that had been rejected by his old company was now being embraced by one of the biggest names in tech. As they flew toward Nexus Tech's headquarters, Samuel thought about everything that had happened. From the rejection at Lumensis to the unexpected offer from Nexus Tech, it was hard to process. By the time they landed, Samuel had made his decision. He signed the contract with Nexus Tech, officially joining the team. He had the opportunity to lead something incredible, to prove that his ideas mattered. But there was a bigger lesson to be learned. Sometimes rejection isn't the end of the road. It's just the beginning of something greater. When you're told no, don't give up. Use it as fuel to prove that you're capable of more than they ever expected. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's opinion. It's defined by what you believe you can achieve. As Samuel walked into his new office at Nexus Tech, ready to take on the challenge, he knew one thing for sure. His journey had just begun. And this time, no one would stop him.